and welcome to the only table where the screams are the appetizers, and the fear is the main course. Pull up a chair, if you dare. Tonight, the shadows are stretching long, the floorboards are creaking with unseen footsteps, and the air is thick with a whisper you can't quite place. You're listening to the Scare Table, where we serve up the deepest, darkest, and most delightful chills the world has to offer. We have set a place just for you. Get ready to feast on true tales of terror, unsettling legends, and the bizarre happenings that defy explanation. Turn down the lights, lock the doors, and maybe check what's standing behind you. It's time to gather round the Scare Table. Let the haunting begin.
Pull up a chair and take your place at the slab. Welcome to the Scare Table, the clinical arm of the GhostfaceHorror.com network. I'm Shane.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Chloe. Every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, we pull back the sheet on the genre's structural layout. We are here to conduct precise forensic autopsies on the practical effects, cinematic architecture, and psychological anatomy of horror. We pick the bones completely clean, finding out what works, what falls dead on arrival, and exactly why.
Before we make the first incision into tonight's terrifying specimen, a quick piece of housekeeping for the collective. If you want to support our deep dive operations, head over to GhostfaceHorror.com for daily genre updates, written forensic essays, and exclusive platform merchandise.
Do us a solid. Hit that subscribe button on your preferred podcatcher, leave us a 5-star diagnostic review, and jump into the comments on our official community channels. Trust me, the discussions get wild over there.
All right, the protocol is met. Let's bring tonight's patient into focus. We are doing a deep, uncompromising dive into Curry Barker's psychological horror film, Obsession. Turn the surgical lights up. Let's look at the anatomy.
Let's lay out the narrative framework of Obsession so everyone knows exactly what kind of tissue we are cutting into. The film centers on Bear, played by Michael Johnston, who is your quintessential nice guy outcast working at a local music store. He's completely infatuated with his coworker and childhood friend Nikki, played by Inde Navarrete. But he's paralyzed. He lacks the spine to actually tell her how he feels.
Classic setup. We've seen it 1,000 times. But the catalyst here is beautifully pathetic. Bear has a profoundly terrible night where he chickens out again, and to top it off, his cat tragically dies. In a state of pure, bitter, isolated frustration, he goes to a local crystal shop and buys this novelty toy called a One-Wish Willow. It looks completely harmless, just a little stick in some plastic packaging. He snaps it and wishes for Nikki to love him more than anyone else in the world.
And the cosmic mechanisms of this film do not hesitate. The wish executes instantly, but it doesn't give Bear a girlfriend. It fractures Nikki's mind. She shows up at his house that night, but her behavior immediately takes a hard dip into the uncanny valley. Her attachment instantly escalates into total, invasive domestic captivity. She manufactures a story about her father dying of cancer just to stay on his couch. She digs up his dead cat to build a grotesque living room memorial, and later hides parts of the cat inside a sandwich she serves him.
The cat sandwich. We are absolutely diving into that later in the gore segment, because that made my stomach turn. But structurally, the film ramps up the isolation. Nikki stands motionless over his bed for hours, cuts his hair while he sleeps, and eventually duct tapes the front door shut from the inside to keep him from leaving. When Bear tries to call the customer service number on the packaging of the Wish Willow, a deadpan voice informs him that the system cannot be reset. It only ends when either he or Nikki dies.
As the narrative spirals, the curse becomes aggressively violent to protect the bond. Their co-worker Sarah tries to intervene, and Nikki brutally murders her, scalps her, and literally wears her clothes to dinner. Then Bear tries to get his best friend Ian to break a second Wish Willow to undo the mess. But Ian thinks it's a joke and sarcastically wishes for $1 billion instead. Boom! Money starts raining from the ceiling directly onto Sarah's fresh corpse.
Which leads to one of the most devastating climaxes in recent horror. Trapped in the bathroom with a gun to the door, Bear realizes the only way to break the loop is his own termination. He swallows a lethal dose of his mother's oxycodone. But outside the door, Nicky snaps the final wish willow. The renewed power of the wish strips away his final moments of free will. His body completely overrides his dying panic. He walks out like a drone, passionately kisses Nicky, and drops dead. The second his heart stops, the curse lifts. The real Nicky snaps back to reality, entirely alone, screaming in horror at the bloodbath she was forced to commit.
Now that the body is laid out, let's talk about the psychological anatomy here, because this film targets a very specific cinematic archetype. For decades, Hollywood has protected the bumbling, awkward guy. We're taught that if a guy is harmless enough, his tracking and boundary testing are just romantic perseverance. Obsession takes a sledgehammer to that. It shows that Bear's desire isn't love, it's a profound need for control.
See, I'm going to challenge the group a bit here. Is Bear actually a monster at the start? Or is he just a tragic idiot? To me, the psychological terror works because Bear is a deeply pathetic, lonely guy who makes a desperate mistake. He doesn't understand the cosmic fine print. The horror isn't that he's a calculating villain. It's that a weak, fragile ego can cause catastrophic collateral damage when given a shortcut to bypass consent.
Marcus, you are letting him off way too easy. And honestly, that's exactly what the movie is warning us against. The entity animating Nicky isn't random. It is executing Bear's exact subconscious wish. It doesn't understand human boundaries because Bear didn't care about her boundaries when he made the wish. The true psychological nightmare is Nicky's total loss of bodily autonomy. She is fully conscious inside her own skull, experiencing a total mental hostage situation while her body acts out his fantasy.
Chloe is spot on, and the movie explicitly confirms this during the party sequence. The real Nicky manages to fight through the fog for a split second. She's crying, begging Bear to kill her while her obsessive persona is asleep. If Bear was just a tragic idiot who regretted his mistake, that was his exit ramp. He could have confessed, he could have sought help, he could have ended her suffering. Instead, he panics and hides her.
But think about the absolute psychological paralysis of that moment. You're a regular kid working a retail job, and the girl of your dreams is begging you to murder her in a kitchen. Yes, he's a coward, but that cowardice is intensely human. It makes the descent feel real because most people aren't heroes. They freeze when the universe breaks.
Let's move the autopsy over to the cinematic architecture, because how Curry Barker handles space in this film is a masterclass in claustrophobia. Let's isolate the hallway standoff in the second act. Shane, walk us through the blocking here, because the geography of that house is doing half the heavy lifting.
Barker uses a highly restrictive, narrow aspect ratio that makes the walls of Bear's suburban house feel like they're actively compressing. In this specific set piece, Bear is trying to sneak to the kitchen to grab his keys. The camera stays fixed over his shoulder, creating a deep depth of field. And right there, in the dead space of the background hallway geometry, Nicky is just standing. She doesn't jump out. She doesn't scream. She's completely static, unblinking, framed perfectly by the door jamb.
I'll give you this. The spatial blocking in that scene is incredible. By keeping her in the background, Barker forces the audience's eyes to constantly scan the negative space of the frame. The house stops being a domestic shelter and completely transforms into a localized panopticon. You feel like nowhere is safe because the geometry of the house offers no blind spots from her gaze.
And look at how the lighting reflects that. The front of the house is washed in this sterile, sickly green ambient light from the street lamps outside, while the back hallway is pure pitch black. When Nicky moves, she doesn't run. She glides seamlessly between those two zones. The blocking forces Bear and the audience into a state of total sensory exhaustion. You can't run because she's duct-taped to the perimeter, and you can't hide because the architecture offers no sanctuary. But let's move the autopsy over to the cinematic architecture, because how Curry Barker handles space in this film is a masterclass in claustrophobia. Let's isolate the hallway standoff in the second act. Shane, walk us through the blocking here, because the geography of that house is doing half the heavy lifting.
Barker uses a highly restrictive, narrow aspect ratio that makes the walls of Bear's suburban house feel like they're actively compressing. In this specific set piece, Bear is trying to sneak to the kitchen to grab his keys. The camera stays fixed over his shoulder, creating a deep depth of field. And right there, in the dead space of the background hallway geometry, Nikki is just standing. She doesn't jump out. She doesn't scream. She's completely static, unblinking, framed perfectly by the door jamb.
I'll give you this. The spatial blocking in that scene is incredible. By keeping her in the background, Barker forces the audience's eyes to constantly scan the negative space of the frame. The house stops being a domestic shelter and completely transforms into a localized panopticon. You feel like nowhere is safe because the geometry of the house offers no blind spots from her gaze.
And look at how the lighting reflects that. The front of the house is washed in this sterile, sickly green ambient light from the street lamps outside, while the back hallway is pure pitch black. When Nikki moves, she doesn't run, she glides seamlessly between those two zones. The blocking forces Bear, and the audience, into a state of total sensory exhaustion. You can't run because she's duct-taped the perimeter, and you can't hide because the architecture offers no sanctuary.
All right, let's get into the practical effects and the raw violence. Because when the system escalates, the gore gets incredibly visceral. Let's talk about the vehicle ambush on Sarah.
That kill was a massive tonal shock to the system. Up to that point, the movie is a slow, quiet, psychological burn. Then Sarah tries to warn Bear in the driveway, and Nikki punches directly through the driver's side window. The use of practical glass shatter mixed with the raw, chaotic sound design of that struggle was brutal. It wasn't clean. It was jagged, messy, and frantic.
But the real stomach turner is the body horror of the aftermath. Nikki doesn't just eliminate a threat, she harvests Sarah. She scalps her to wear her hair and clothes. The practical effects on that scalp piece were phenomenal. The glistening tissue, the torn edges of the dermis. It was deeply disturbing because it showed the entity's complete lack of human empathy. To the curse, Sarah was just raw materials to improve the relationship.
And what about the cat sandwich earlier? It's not high gore, but the psychological revulsion of Bear biting into a sandwich and realizing his dug-up, mutilated pet's fur is inside it? That is top-tier exploitation horror. It plays on our visceral disgust mechanisms perfectly.
See, I'll throw a flag on the play here. I thought the scalping and the cat sandwich leaned a bit too far into over-the-top edginess. The film was doing so well with subtle, creeping dread. When it suddenly shifted into Texas Chainsaw Massacre body-snatching territory, it felt like it was trying a bit too hard to shock the audience, rather than letting the psychological trap do the work.
I completely disagree, Shane. The escalation needs to be monstrous. If it stayed quiet, it wouldn't capture the absolute devouring nature of total obsession. The gore shows us exactly what the fantasy looks like when you strip away the romantic filters. It's supposed to be grotesque. All right, boys, the specimen has been completely picked clean on the slab. The tissue is separated, and the systemic errors have been mapped. It is time to close the book on obsession with our signature final rounds. You know the protocol. What is the one thing you absolutely loved, and what is the one thing you would change? But tonight, we aren't just filing reports. If your answer doesn't hold up under diagnostic scrutiny, we are tearing it apart. Marcus, you're on the block first. Take us in.
The one thing I absolutely loved is the climax involving Ian and the reigning currency. Merging that completely surreal, cosmic wish fulfillment with a sudden, cold-blooded execution was pitch-black genius. It completely disrupted the psychological reality of the film in a way that left me jaw-dropped.
Wait, Marcus, I have to challenge you on that immediately. The raining money? To me, that scene represents the exact moment the film's internal logic completely fractures. Up to that point, the film is a grounded, hyper-focused study of domestic captivity and psychological isolation. When cash starts literally falling like a cheesy A24 parody, it completely breaks the tension. It felt goofy, not terrifying. How does that serve the scare factor?
Shane, you're missing the entire cosmic framework. The horror of the One Wish Willow is its cold, unyielding, literal computing system. It executes commands like an uncaring machine. Ian asks for $1 billion, so the universe dumps it from above. That contrast is the horror. It shows that human life means absolutely nothing to the force controlling Nikki. It's absurd, it's grotesque, and it makes you feel completely helpless because the rules are arbitrary.
I'm with Marcus on this one, Shane. The Raining Money emphasizes the total lack of human empathy from the cosmic parasite. But Marcus, let's look at your flip side. What is the one thing you would change?
The entire middle stretch of the second act. The pacing hits a wall for about 15 minutes inside Bear's house. It gets repetitive. Nikki stares from a dark doorway, Bear panics, rinse, and repeat. I would change the geography slightly. Pull the camera back from the house just once. Show us an outside perspective, maybe a police welfare check or a neighbor noticing the duct tape windows, just to break up the monotony and make the return to the house feel even more claustrophobic.
Absolutely not. Marcus, that change would completely destroy the mechanical engineering of the second act. The entire point of that 15-minute drag is to induce sensory exhaustion in the audience. You are supposed to feel just as trapped, bored, and profoundly terrified as Bear is. If you give the audience an outside cutaway to a cop or a neighbor, you provide an escape valve for the tension. The movie forces you to stay in the prison cell. Why would you want to break that simulation?
Because from a recording and entertainment standpoint, Chloe, cinematic fatigue is still fatigue. There is a fine line between simulating captivity and just letting your narrative engine stall out. The audience shouldn't want to check their phones during a horror movie just because the director wanted them to feel exhausted.
He's not wrong, Chloe. It does test your patience. But let me step onto the block before you two start throwing punches. The one thing I absolutely loved about Obsession was the terminal loop execution in the final bathroom sequence. Specifically, the way Bear's autonomic nervous system is entirely hijacked by Nikki snapping the final wish willow. Watching his mind panic while his physical muscles override his free will, forcing him to smile, walk out, and kiss his captor as he dies, is an incredible, deeply haunting body horror concept.
No argument there. That final override sequence is brilliant. But what's your diagnostic failure, Shane? What would you change?
The scalping of Sarah. It felt entirely out of step with the rest of the film's artistic layout. The practical effects team did a flawless job with the wet tissue and the jagged hairline, but structurally, turning Nikki into a slasher villain who wears a skin suit and her dead friend's clothes felt incredibly tacky. It dragged a high-concept psychological thriller down into standard, late-night exploitation schlock. It didn't fit the clinical tone Barker established.
Shane, that is a fundamentally flawed reading of the entity's psychology. You're looking at it like a standard slasher trope instead of looking at the why. The entity animating Nikki is trying to construct the perfect environment for Bear based on his literal command. Sarah was a threat to that environment. By killing her, scalping her, and wearing her clothes, Nikki is trying to eliminate the threat while keeping the input that Bear liked about Sarah. It's a monstrous, algorithmic attempt to optimize his happiness. It's not schlock. It's the logical climax of a mind that has been completely hollowed out by a forced wish.
I understand the thematic justification, Chloe. I'm talking about the visual execution. It visually transforms Nikki from a terrifyingly quiet, uncanny valley presence into Leatherface. The second she puts on the hair, the psychological realism evaporates and it turns into a monster movie. It lessened the impact of the final frames for me.
I actually agree with Shane on that. The subtle, unblinking stare in the background hallway was 10 times scarier than a girl running around with a bloody scalp on her head. It felt like two different movies colliding.
Well, you both are clearly misinterpreting the physical escalation of the third act. But let's bring it to my metrics. The one thing I absolutely loved about this film is Inde Navarrette's physical performance. The posture, the way she controls her breathing, and specifically that agonizing kitchen sequence where the real Nikki manages to scream through the fog for a few seconds to beg for death. She holds the entire structural weight of the film together.
And what would you cut or change, Chloe? Let's hear it.
The crystal shop scene at the very beginning. It felt incredibly conventional and lazy for a film that is otherwise so subversive. The second a character walks into a dusty, neon-lit, esoteric shop to buy a cursed object from a mysterious owner, you are relying on a tired, 50-year-old horror cliché. I would change the origin of the One-Wish Willow entirely. Make it an industrial product, an online dark web purchase, or an unlabeled package left on his doorstep. Frame it through modern isolation rather than a traditional antique store trope.
Oh, come on, Chloe. You just yelled at me for wanting to change the middle stretch because it broke the classic simulation. And now you want to reinvent the foundational trope of the entire story? The antique shop works precisely because it's familiar. It tricks the audience into thinking they are watching a standard, safe, monkey's paw adaptation before Barker pulls the trigger and mutates it into a modern nightmare on consent. The cliché is the bait.
The cliché is lazy storytelling, Marcus. A film this sharp shouldn't have to rely on a dusty trope from 1970 just to get its plot moving. It felt like a placeholder script element that never got revised.
The bones are completely splintered and the hosts are officially divided, which means our work here is done. Obsession proves that the modern psychological horror landscape is alive, well, and entirely uncompromising.
But before we officially lock up the workshop for the night, let's handle the network logbook. If you want to support the Scare Table and everything we do on the slab, make sure you are heading over to ghostfacehorror.com. That is your central hub for daily genre autopsies, deep dive written essays, and the official storefront for exclusive network merchandise.
And do not leave us cold on the slab. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on your preferred podcatcher. Leave us a 5-star diagnostic review, and drop your own verdicts in the comments on our official community channels. We want to know whose side you're on for this one.
Also, make sure your dials are locked into Ghostface Horror Radio throughout the week, because the programming doesn't stop when our table clears. Specifically, you need to mark your schedules for the Horror Rock God Show, broadcasting every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
That is a mandatory weekly appointment. It is a once-a-week horror story hosted by the one and only Horror Rock God. If you want high-octane, narrative-driven dread to wrap up your weekend, that is where you need to be.
The network slates are locked. Keep your eyes peeled, your deadbolts thrown, and be exceptionally careful what you wish for when the lights go down. We will see you right back here next Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for our next forensic evaluation.
Until then, stay spooky.
Good night.
See ya!
The Scare Table. Let the haunting begin.
GhostfaceHorror.com. Hello, Sydney. Welcome to the frequency. Something's wrong, I can feel it. It's that 3117 chill. 6 minutes of carnage. The signal didn't fade. We are just taking chances. We're rewriting the DNA. I'm beginning to feel like a phantom in the machine. Look, I was gonna go easy, keep the crime scene clean, but I'm bananas, B-A-N-A-N-A-S, forensic art at the flow. I'm the shape in the shadows, watch the dark orange glow. Knives coming at you with that supernatural speed. Superhuman innovator, planting every dark seed. What I gotta do to get it through to you? I'm the legend in the mask, devastating the audience. It's a monumental task. I'm a titan, I'm a giant, I'm the ghost on the dial. Broadcasting from over to yeah, it's been a long while. I'm the reason they're shaking, I'm the glitch in their head. I'm 96, big 6, the voice of the dead. I don't need a label or a fake industry deal. I'm a renegade rebel spinning the cinematic wheel. They wanna cancel the name, let them try to stop the fire. I'm the king of the basement, climbing higher and higher. I'm beginning to feel like a horror rock god, locked in hyper god mode. Studio 3117, watch the system explode. records, hear the subwoofers booming. It's the 90s heaven, the boost the genre's foundation, mixed with the digital pulse of a new generation. I'm the truth in the silence, I'm the shadow on the wall. I'm the one who stands tall when the other guys fall. Forensic with the bars, audit every single line. Studio 3117, the design is divine. I'm beginning to feel like a horror rock god, locked in God mode. Studio 3117, watch the system explode. From the front to the back, let the heavy bass nod. I'm a monster, a myth, I'm a lightning rod. A horror rock god, I'm in God mode. Paving the road where the blood is flowed. Breaking the rules, shattering the code. Carrying the culture while the heavens erode. Step into the gallery of the icons of fear, where the legends are born and the exits disappear. I'm the silent white mask staring back from the porch, the undying flame